All right, what's up, guys? So today I want to talk about the rotation for the Phantom Necro. That's the Soul Snatch Phantom Necro. Okay, DPS spec. Now this is the most efficient way to use the rotation, and that's also how to use your cooldowns and what to do during AOE as much as single target. Okay. So without further ado, let's just jump into it right here. We understand that we generate energy as a Phantom Necro. We also spend that energy. Okay, that's the main interaction of the spec. The primary interaction there is actually maintaining our spectral copy. This bar below our like resource here will actually show you the timer for your spectral. So you want to manage and pay attention to that timer there. Um, the most important thing then to make sure that we always have our spectral up is just to time our the generation of our energy, how we spend it, how we generate it, and make sure that we have at least 5 energy when our spectral is about to fall off cooldown so that we can go ahead and, as you see there, we can maintain it as much as possible. That's the most important thing to do for this spec. Okay, so one of the most important factors of all of that, obviously, you're spending some of that energy, but you want to generate it with Soul Trap. It's difficult for me to kind of coach you through how to use it. Just make sure that you're using it wisely. You don't want to let it get to 2 stacks if you can help, because if it's not just recharging, you're kind of wasting it. And then also make sure that you never use Soul Trap when you have 7 energy or higher, because you'll it's just inefficient. You'll be wasting some energy that you could regenerate. All right, so just make sure to spend Bone Spirit or Spectral to get it back down. If it's at 7, 8, or 9, so 7 or higher, and then go ahead and cast Soul Trap. Okay. Um, every so often in our single target rotation, we'll have Soul Elegy proc that actually comes off of a talent here that I will show you. Um, it is called, it's right here. Okay. And it just has a 12% chance when you use Soul Trap to make this glow. Instead of costing 1 energy, it actually generates 1 energy, and it just casts our AoE. In single target, it's okay to use those procs. I encourage it. Just make sure you don't have 9 energy, right? And if you're in a cooldown window, I would probably not use it. Wait to get through the cooldown window and then use that Soul Elegy in single target situation. Okay. The only other thing that happens in our single target, just main rotation, is our Soul Arrow. Um, most of the time, you'll be using Bone Spirit or Soul Arrow. You've been weaving in Soul Traps, right? And every now and then you'll press Soul Elegy. So your main interaction is actually Bone Spirit, weaving in Soul Arrow. There's no specific order to press those, as long as you're behaving the rules of 5 energy for Spectral, 7 energy or Soul Trap. It doesn't really matter. Okay, just practice it. Find what's comfortable for you. Stick with it. Okay. And then, yeah, that's pretty much the single target rotation. So we'll move over to cooldowns. Obviously, you're gonna maintain that single target rotation and everything that it entails. But you gain some priorities, right? You want to make sure to use your cooldowns on rather than using your main rotation. Okay? And during these cooldowns, sometimes the rotation can change, right? So right now, the most effective way I've found to use the cooldown rotation, every 60 seconds you'll have a soul burst that you can pair with Shadow Blade. I recommend doing that. Gives you an 8-second damage window. Gives you some it transforms our soul arrow, and then with that damage buff, you can smack them hard with Shadow Blade, and then start throwing out some soul arrows. Okay, during this window, this 8-second window, when we're using Shadow Blade and Soul Arrow, you can use Soul Arrow 5 times. You want to make sure, actually, I'll step back from that. You want to make sure you have 5 energy when you cast Soul Burst to get the maximum benefit. And then you'll immediately follow up with a Shadow Blade. If you don't have a Spectral, obviously at that time, go ahead and cast Spectral, but follow up with a Shadow Blade and then spam Soul Arrow. Okay, you can do it 5 times. It'll be buffed 5 times for 5 casts. Once that's done, you just go back to your single target rotation. 30 seconds later, while this is still on cooldown, Soul Burst, you'll be able to cast another Shadow Blade. That's fine. Go ahead and use it. Just make sure that when Soul Burst comes back up off cooldown, that you have Shadow Blade available. Okay. Other than that, that's kind of our cooldown usage. We also have Inscribed Stone. It just functions as a third cooldown, but it's its own unique cooldown window. It completely changes what we do, but it's for only 6 seconds, so it's not too terribly confusing. Okay, so during this 6-second window, before you click it, the number one priority is obviously to make sure you have Spectral. I would not use this if my Spectral was at half duration. I would go ahead and wait for my Spectral to fall off, let him come back out, right? And then go ahead and press your cooldown. You just don't want to interrupt that window without having your Spectral out, because it's always beneficial to have him out, okay? So we click Inscribed Stone. What do we do? It's very straightforward. We have 2 buttons during that time. We have Soul Arrow and Soul Trap. Nothing else matters. It doesn't matter if we cast our energy, if it gets to 9, that it does not matter. We just want to make sure we have Spectral out. Okay. You're going to cast every charge of Soul Trap that is available. At max, that will be 2. And then you're just going to follow up with as many Soul Arrows as you can. Okay. You are you're welcome to use Bone Spirit during that damage buff. However, I do believe you get more benefit from using Soul Arrow. But I'm still pending on that. Okay, I'll get back with you on it. Okay, and then finally our AoE rotation. As I mentioned, it's very simple. It's just our single target rotation. However, we want to make sure that we're always casting Soul Elegy when it's available. Obviously having our Spectral out. However, it just means that you'll end up casting less Bone Spirits. That's really all it means. And again, just make sure you cast Soul Elegy, but you're managing your energy so that you can have Spectral, right? Everything else stays the same. You use your cooldowns exactly the same. That one caveat, when you use Soul Burst and during AoE, you're obviously going to follow up with Shadow Blade, all right? I would then proceed to cast every Soul Elegy that becomes available during that 8-second window, and then weave in Soul Arrow. Okay, if that makes sense. You may need to rewind that, listen to it, understand it. But that's the one other change in AoE that I would recommend. And that's pretty much everything I have at this point. I don't think I could go too much more in depth. Just make sure for AoE that you are timing, like when mobs are moving. There's plenty of situations where mobs are not grouped. I would wait for them to get grouped, and make sure that there's 3 targets, right? So we're doing single target all the time, but once there's 3 or more targets, that's when I would start using Soul Elegy. You can potentially, just start doing your AoE rotation with 2. But I haven't tested it enough to tell if it's an actual increase in damage. But it's definitely an increase in damage when you have 3 or more targets. Okay. But yeah, guys. I imagine some people will have questions. Feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I'll get to them. And yeah, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. It really helps. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time.